With the selection of a jury in the Sean Diddy Combs case almost complete, prosecutors are preparing for opening arguments on Monday. But they admit there's a snag. One of their key witnesses against the rapper appears to have gone missing. This comes as we learn that Combs' ex-girlfriend, who was seen on video being assaulted by the rapper, is pregnant.
Diddy's trial hasn't even started, but chaos is already unfolding. One key witness, known as Victim 3, has vanished. Prosecutors can't locate her or make contact, raising serious concerns. Her disappearance could severely damage the case, as missing such a crucial voice might weaken the prosecution's argument before it even reaches the courtroom.
Diddy Combs' trial backing out? Victim number 3, as she's called, was set to testify against the music mogul. The name of victim number 3 was going to be revealed when she took the stand, but the woman has apparently gone missing, and prosecutors say they've been unable to reach her.
People just get nervous, and this person could just be nervous and just has had second thoughts.
If the prosecutor can't find this witness, how might it affect the case?
Look, I don't think it's going to have a tremendous effect. The prosecution is going to call a number of alleged victims. So look, this is just one less.
Someone else is also getting cold feet. A juror sent an email to the judge asking to be removed from the panel for issues of personal will.
A legal expert following the case explained that losing a key witness like this could seriously impact the prosecution's ability to prove Diddy's guilt. In high-profile trials, he said, it's not uncommon for witnesses to back out due to fear, pressure, or simply not wanting to be in the spotlight. He believes the case might still move forward if prosecutors aren't relying solely on her testimony. Another attorney pointed out that when a crucial witness disappears, it puts immense pressure on the legal process and can shift the momentum. Despite numerous lawsuits and claims, only a few victims are currently willing to speak publicly, making every voice count. A former FBI agent also weighed in, telling News Nation that protective measures for witnesses will likely be in place as the trial progresses. Still, the disappearance of this witness poses a serious challenge for the prosecution.
Testimonies are going to be extremely important. Building a case against someone as high profile as Diddy is not an easy job. So I'm going to bring in former FBI agent Bobby Chacon to talk more about this. So off the bat, Bobby, how do you build a case against a celebrity as well-resourced and powerful as Diddy?
Well, it takes a lot, Sylvia, as you know, because the allegations in this case range from like 2004 to 2024. So this is going to be going on for 20 years, and they're finally getting around to charging him now and trying now. That's because it's so difficult to get people who are not afraid to come forward. This person was powerful. They were rich. They had a lot of influence. They were allegedly violent. So all of those things add up to making it very difficult for investigators to get people to talk to them about these. You add in the fact that many of these things are embarrassing. They're of a sexual nature. They're private. They take place behind closed doors. And that adds to the reticence of witnesses coming forward and talking about these things. And so investigators have to do a lot of long, hard work in getting these witnesses to trust them, number one, to make sure they feel like they are being treated, not as a pawn in a game to get Diddy, but as people that really care, that the prosecution cares about these people. And so you bring in victim witness people who are trained really and have the background in talking to people who are maybe victims of alleged sexual violence. And so you bring in specialists that kind of can talk to people like that and get them to open up about these things and to trust the investigators and trust the prosecutors, that they're just not going to be thrust into a situation. You have to get them to trust you so that if someone does make a threat, even if it's veiled, people can do that on social media now. They can say things that are kind of a little bit wonky sometimes, or these veiled threats. So if the witnesses that you're developing are comfortable enough with you, they will bring those threats to you, or those situations where they might feel threatened. You always have on the federal level, we have the witness protection program, right, which is one run by the U.S. Marshal Service. That's kind of a very extreme step, because that's somebody you change their identity, you move them to another part of the country, they're not allowed any contact with previous people in their lives. So it's the witness protection program is one of the more extreme steps that you take, but there are other steps you can take to ensure the witness that they're not going to be subject to that. If anyone does make a statement that's even considered something like that, you send a team to go out and investigate and to question that person and to get them to maybe make a retraction or to kind of back off a little bit. So you do have to do a good job at making sure the witnesses are comfortable that if anything should happen that they feel uncomfortable about, they bring it to you and then you have to address it in the ways that are.
Diddy faces serious charges, with the government accusing him of running a criminal enterprise through Bad Boy Entertainment. They allege he used threats, weapons, and various forms of abuse, emotional, physical, and sexual, to maintain control. The indictment also warns he might retaliate against witnesses, and prosecutors claim he's been intimidating people even while in custody.
Well, I mean, on the surface, if the prosecutor's claims are true, this seems like pretty much textbook witness tampering, right? I mean, it appears to be an effort to either, in some cases, intimidate witnesses from testifying against him, or there have been other reports of sort of inducing people to make statements in his defense. There was some allegation that in one instance this was a statement that he, in essence, dictated or drafted with a woman who made a statement that was attempting to rebut one of the accusers, I believe, in a civil case against him. I mean, witness tampering is bad. The things that Sean Combs is accused of are terrible. He pleads his innocence. The justice system will presumably work its way through.
It is likely that there is some underlying truth to at least some of the allegations. There might be a lot of underlying truth to a lot of the allegations. There's probably some bandwagoning going on. We spoke to an attorney who's for one of the alleged victims of Diddy a few weeks ago. I believe Amber Nomiki and I did, and they said they had calls, they had information, they had people, hundreds of them, come forward. They're not going to represent all of them. They're, which ones have evidence that can be compelling. What are the best cases to bring that? I also saw a story in the New York Post. This is from a week ago, about Diddy stuff that I wanted to read the headline of. Woman claims she saw minors dressed as Harajuku Barbies at Sean Diddy Combs' freak-off parties, what he was describing there to Conan so many years ago. Said these were sex-fueled parties with what she initially thought were little people dressed as Japanese Barbies. And she said, this is her talking to TMZ, are those midgets? And she actually thinks they were kids dressed up as sexy. Oh, gross. So again, that's just from someone who provided this information to TMZ for a documentary, but pretty disgusting.
It is. No.
Diddy is facing serious charges, including racketeering and transporting individuals for prostitution. Convicted, he could face 15 years to life in prison. He maintains his innocence. Even before opening statements, jury selection has seen delays, as many potential jurors are hesitant to join such a high-profile case. The judge emphasized caution to ensure a fair trial. Interestingly, Johnny Depp's attorney, Ben Chu, shared insights on the type of jurors Diddy's legal team might prefer to strengthen their defense.
I think you want somebody who wants to serve, someone eager to serve, because that suggests that person might be inclined toward a celebrity like Diddy. I would also, in this case, I would want men, not because men support abuse, but I could see this being very difficult for women jurors. I would want younger jurors as well. I don't know that older jurors would be good for him.
Do you care where they get their news? Do you care if they go on social media?
I wouldn't care so much about social media. Certainly watching you on Law and Crime would be a real problem. But no, I wouldn't care too much. I mean, in fact, if they were reading the celebrity media, TMZ, Rolling Stone, that might be an encouraging thing for Diddy's counsel.
Now, Ben, according to the court today, they expect preemptory challenges.
Diddy's legal team is preparing to argue that some of his past relationships were mutual, not one-sided, suggesting both parties were involved in questionable behavior. However, legal experts warn this defense may not hold. Key issue is power. If Diddy used his fame and wealth to manipulate or control others, that remains a serious allegation. Mutual conflict doesn't excuse abuse. Those who resisted control, like Aubrey O'Day, reportedly faced real danger, highlighting the darker side of Diddy's influence and raising further concerns about the nature of his past relationships.
I wasn't willing to do what was expected of me. Not talent-wise, but in other areas. It's difficult when you're that young to understand your worth as a woman through the men that I was around, and that was very traumatic. I don't think any of us have healed from that. Diddy would be like, you're not hot anymore, like what happened? You don't have anything, like you don't have any curves. You're looking like you're not looking like, I can't get people to think that you're my good looking person. And there was no Me Too at that time. There was no protecting anyone at that time. You signed a million NDAs and a million contracts that took away.
Gene Deal later revealed Diddy's shocking plan for her music group. He allegedly intended to exploit them by pimping them out.
And I know you ain't signed it. I know you ain't signed an NDA, clearly. But did Diddy make his artists sign NDAs and people that work for him?
Well, a lot of these rappers, a lot of these industry people, anybody who does business nowadays with the internet, they have NDAs, non-disclosure. That means that if you work for them, you around them, you can't disclose any of the information about them. It's the same thing that he gave to all his artists when he gave them their publishing back. I'm gonna give y'all publishing, but y'all can't talk about Janice Combs, Justin Combs, Sony, Bad Boy, or anything that happened. Y'all can't talk about none of that. But there's some artists that didn't say anything, that didn't sign it, and they able to talk about anything they want to. And I think that's those girls that was, I think Danny Kane. I think a couple of them didn't sign it. And boy, oh boy, they probably gonna go after him too. Cause I heard him, and I'm giving you this, Aubrey. He stood up there and he said in front of a lot of people, we were in the studio, and I said something to him and walked out the studio. He said, yo, I'm gonna drug their ass off and pick them up and pimp them out to my nigga. He said, I'm gonna drug them out. I'm gonna get them all on drugs, and I'm gonna pimp their ass out to my. And I was like, them somebody kids, and walked out. And it's somebody that heard me. It's somebody that heard me. I mean, well, it's not only somebody that heard me, it's somebody that I know who was in the studio at the time that happened, and I still talk to him today. And we were just talking about that the other day. He done moved back to Indiana. I don't know why. I'm gonna give you that one. He said he was gonna drug them all out and pimp them out.
Defense strategies that try to paint the victim as equally responsible often backfire with jurors, who typically dislike attempts to shift blame. In Diddy's case, his team may try to downplay a video showing a violent altercation with ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura, suggesting it was a private dispute, not evidence of a broader criminal pattern. Cassie, now pregnant, is expected to testify under her real name, while most other alleged victims remain anonymous. Legal experts say her pregnancy and smaller stature could make her appear more sympathetic to the jury, potentially weakening the defense's attempt to portray the violence as mutual. Diddy, meanwhile, has pleaded not guilty to all charges and continues to deny every accusation. What makes the situation more intriguing is that, according to Gene Deal, Diddy is refusing any plea deals, signaling that he plans to fight every charge in court. This move suggests he believes he can clear his name, or at least avoid conviction.
Is that he need to take his counsel advice. Because if he think he's gonna get out of this from the federal government, he out his mind. They in the process of plea bargaining, trying to do a plea bargain session with him, and he not taking it. That's probably why one of the lawyers jumped off the case. Remember Benjamin Bradford, his first lawyer with the Cassie situation? He said, give her the 10 million and make this go away, brother. He ended up giving her 30 million. He's not taking the lawyer's advice. 9 times out of 10, they probably got him a good plea bargain. Yo, listen to me, we can give you 15 years. 10 or 15 years. You do that, you come out, you only have to do like 12, 13. Come out to a halfway house. You still can live some of your life out as a free man. He don't want to hear it. So it is what it is. The federal government do not want to go to court. 9 times out of 10, they want a plea bargain with you. You understand? You accept the plea, you accept the time, you go ahead, you save the government money, you save them time and effort and manpower. If you don't believe that that white guy was a plant, then something is wrong with you. He done sold them enough drugs, but they haven't hit him with that charge. They haven't did him with that charge yet, or that we know of. If you don't believe that they're gonna try to hit him with those guns in there, they saving all that for last. The drugs, the guns. They'll do another superseding indictment and add those two up if he don't take the plea. If he don't take the plea bargain to the sex trafficking or whatever, stuff like that, they're gonna say, okay, let's add the guns to it and let's add the drugs to it.
How you feel about Keefe D? He out here crying to come home, man.
Keefe D, I think is a mistravesty of justice. That Keefe D is still in jail without a bail, or they're not making his bail low enough for him to go home. For the fact of the matter is that Keefe D was told to say something by a LAPD officer who was writing a book, doing a movie, and making himself rich off of an event that happened in our culture. And that he's in jail because the cops said a lot of these things first.
By the end of this week, jury selection is expected to wrap up in what may become one of the most explosive trials in music history. Once a billionaire mogul celebrated as a rapper, producer, and entrepreneur, Diddy is now facing a wave of legal trouble, potentially hundreds of cases. Attorney Andrew Van Arsdale, who currently represents 37 individuals in civil suits against Diddy, told CNN that over 400 more potential claims are waiting in the wings. Many alleged victims are still too afraid to come forward, fearing retaliation or career damage if Diddy is not convicted. My clients hesitated for years because of the power he held and the professional threats they felt he could make good on, Van Arsdale explained. They ask me every day, what if he walks? What if he's back on the streets in 2 months? They're still scared. Van Arsdale's legal center has reportedly received nearly 27,000 calls, and after filtering out fake and unverified reports, around 15,000 seem credible. From those, more than 400 could result in actual lawsuits, some of them potentially major. This echoes attorney Tony Busby's earlier claims of having more cases on standby. As the trial looms, the number of possible lawsuits continues to climb, and the fear among victims remains high. What started as a single case is now unraveling into a much larger storm that could reshape not just Diddy's legacy, but shake the entertainment industry to its core.
Will come when we will name names other than Sean Combs, and there's a lot of names. It's a long list already. And of course, I already know who some of these individuals are, but because of the nature of this case, we're going to make damn sure that we're right before we do that. But the names that we're going to name, assuming that our investigators confirm and corroborate what we've been told, are named.
Van Arsdale isn't alone. At least 12 lawyers are handling lawsuits against Diddy, with claims spanning years, locations, and individuals. Shockingly, one lawsuit even alleges NBA star LeBron James was somehow involved.
Is an explosive new lawsuit that I'm going to break down for you, filed by a man named Joseph Manzaro in Florida. And this is actually in Florida federal court. So he is actually identifying himself in this lawsuit. He's not using a pseudonym. and he claims that he is a survivor of human trafficking and sexual exploitation, and more specifically, as outlined in the complaint, quote, plaintiff was drugged, transported against his will, and sexually maimed as a victim of a coercive and organized criminal enterprise beginning in 2015, orchestrated and facilitated by the defendants. The pattern of threats, concealment, manipulation, and psychological coercion persisted for years, extending the statute of limitations under federal tolling doctrines. Now, here is the kicker, quote, high-profile individuals, including Jacob Arabo, Jay-Z, Gloria Estefan, LeBron James, and Beyonce Knowles Carter, are identified as witnesses due to their presence or knowledge of the events surrounding the freak-off orchestrated by defendant Diddy. Wow. And freak-off, of course, is something that we've heard many times before, both in Combs' criminal case and other civil cases, to describe these prolonged sexual episodes, usually with sex workers. But Manzaro is suing Sean Combs. He is suing a man named Eric Mejias. He is suing Brendan Paul, who's been described in another lawsuit as Sean Combs' drug mule, Emilio Estefan, who is married to pop superstar Gloria Estefan, and Adria English, who filed her own lawsuit against Sean Combs, claiming she too was a victim of sex trafficking. By the way, it's interesting he's not suing these other celebrities that I mentioned, like Jay-Z and Beyonce and Gloria Estefan, possibly because he doesn't believe their alleged liability amounted to a civil claim, but seems to want to call them as witnesses at a trial, although I have to imagine they will do everything in their power to quash any subpoena should this case progress, and we'll talk a little bit more about whether or not.
Prosecutors have reportedly introduced new evidence linked to the civil lawsuits against Diddy. While the court documents are redacted, legal experts believe the material points to Diddy's alleged inappropriate behavior involving minors, suggesting a disturbing pattern. With over 30 lawsuits already filed and damning video footage of him physically assaulting Cassie, many believe it's only a matter of time before Diddy faces serious legal consequences and potentially ends up behind bars.
Implicate dozens of unidentified witnesses and alleged co-conspirators around the world, and some of the key witnesses to the supposed incidents are dead, basically meaning how can we defend against it? The defense is not even permitted to share the identities of the individuals described in the disclosure letter with Mr. Combs until April 18th, further hampering defense counsel's ability to investigate. Collectively, these new allegations require many months, if not years, to investigate, and if admitted, would require a series of mini-trials certain to double the length of a trial the government originally said would last 3 weeks. So this is an explosive allegation that on its face, I don't know if I necessarily disagree with. If they are bringing in evidence of uncharged conduct, wouldn't the defense have an opportunity to investigate it and challenge it? It seems like they're making a point. So if this evidence is allowed in, there is a chance this could delay the trial significantly. We all know Combs wants to go to trial, but how can he properly defend himself against this in just a few?
After 4 failed motions to suppress evidence or dismiss expert testimonies, Diddy's lawyers argued that the freak-off tapes and baby oil recovered from his mansion were seized illegally without proper search warrants. They sought to have the evidence ruled inadmissible. However, Judge Arun Subramanian declared all submitted evidence admissible, meaning there's a strong likelihood that the controversial tapes will be played publicly during the trial.
Sean Diddy Combs looking to suppress evidence in his federal trial. Senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katursky is back with the story. Good morning again, Aaron.
And to you, Michael. You'll remember federal agents from Homeland Security Investigations were hardly shy when they raided Sean Combs' opulent homes in Los Angeles and Miami, guns drawn. The jailed music mogul now argues those searches and other searches of his iCloud accounts, electronic devices, and New York City hotel room following his arrest were unconstitutional. His lawyers argue evidence obtained through those searches must be suppressed. Diddy's lawyers say the government presented a grossly distorted picture of reality when applying for the search warrants, omitting certain facts and including salacious details from an unnamed producer that were never credible. Combs has pleaded not guilty to racketeering conspiracy, trafficking, and prostitution charges. The defense is also arguing here his ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, was a willing participant in drug-fueled sex performances called freak-offs, not coerced as prosecutors allege. This latest challenge to his case comes 3 months before trial, and as Combs loses one of his attorneys, Anthony Rico says under no circumstances can he continue to represent Combs. He offered no details about that decision, Robin.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Out of over 60 civil cases filed against Diddy, 2 have been dropped. One woman chose to remain anonymous, while another withdrew her lawsuit after Jay-Z denied the allegations and inconsistencies in her story emerged. Diddy's legal team has also highlighted more discrepancies, including one male accuser who gave a CNN interview in December 2024 where his details didn't align with his lawsuit. Van Arsdale, the lawyer representing many of the plaintiffs, explained that the mistake was due to a paperwork error, which has now been corrected. Although Diddy's criminal and civil cases are separate, Van Arsdale shared that some clients are cooperating with federal investigators and could testify. For them, it's a chance to see the justice system work. Van Arsdale is committed to seeking justice, saying his clients will be overjoyed if Diddy is convicted and imprisoned, but their healing process requires accountability for the wrongs done to them.